He treated me like a chore for months, then proposed at a fancy party to win me back. But what I did afterwards shattered him. My BF and I have been together for a very long time. We dated from the time we're 16 to 22. We then broke up for a while but got back together when we were 25. We are both 29 now. We live together and I know he's going to ask me to marry him soon, so I want to get my feelings in order before anything happens. I love him, I really do, but I feel sorta unloved. I know once couples become comfortable with each other and live together, the spark or whatever dies, but I don't like feeling like this. I still make an effort, I ask him how his day went, I'm affectionate, I put out, so to speak. A thing that really bothers me is when I say something, a lot of the time, he ignores me. When I bring it up, he says that he didn't hear me or that he was busy. For example, I'll say, "Did you see there's going to be a strike tomorrow?" and I won't get a reply. I'll wait 10 seconds, still no reply. Then I'll ask, "Hello? Did you hear what I said?" and he'll go, or grunt in response. He does this often, just abrupt responses after ignoring me and me having to repeat myself. I'd understand if he did this if I was talking his ear off, but I'm not even a talkative person. Yet when he talks about anything, I pay attention, respond properly, validate his opinions and reassure him when he needs me to. Affection-wise, I always give him hugs and kisses. He hardly ever does this anymore without me asking. I compliment him and tell him that he looks handsome. He hasn't complimented me in any shape or form in probably over a year now that I think about it. I still look the same looks-wise, I haven't gained weight or anything. Not that that's a reason to stop loving someone, but you know how some people are, so I don't know what changed. Have things just become stale? Is this what inevitably happens? This whole situation has been troubling me for a while, but I'm not sure what to do. Our anniversary is in 2 months' time and his sister accidentally let it slip that he's going to propose. If it weren't for that, I'd think that we've been together for too long and he's now sick of me. I tried talking to a few of my friends who are already married and all I got were varied versions of, "That's how men are." He wasn't like this before. He would pay attention to me, talk to me, and overall I just felt more liked, you know? Now it just kind of feels one-sided. The one time I attempted to kind of bring it up, I opened with, "Do you still like me?" Because sometimes it doesn't really feel like it, and he replied with, "If I didn't like you, why would I be here?" I could tell it was going to end up in an argument, so I just let it go after that. How do I handle this situation? I want to bring it up with him, but I don't know how to do it. I guess I'm not really good at articulating how I feel. Or should I not say anything because this is just the way relationships go? Please advise me because I'm a little lost. TLDR, my BF and I have dated for over 10 years altogether. He is going to propose soon, but I'm not completely happy as I feel unloved. He's somewhat abrupt and not affectionate anymore, and it's making me question whether things aren't ideal or whether it's a normal aging relationship. Relevant comments. Commenter. You can't have an honest conversation about this without it turning into an argument? Am I correct in guessing that this is a pattern, and whenever he doesn't want to discuss something difficult, you know it'll turn into an argument, so you just drop it? If so, my partner just proposed to me less than a week ago, and I can promise you that your friends are just in unfulfilling relationships. I call my Finnace a literal angel every chance I get, because he is. Your dude feels comfortable and doesn't feel the need to put in any effort anymore. Could be because he's just going through the motions and he isn't really that into the relationship anymore. Could be because he doesn't feel like once you get to a certain point in a relationship, effort flies out the window. Neither scenario is good or how things should be. I think it's worth trying to speak with him again about it, but definitely don't commit to marrying this dude before you have an honest conversation. OP, whenever I try to talk about feelings or things we need to work on in our relationship, no matter how carefully I choose my words, he will take it as an attack and turn it into an argument or just shut down completely and refuse to talk. Congratulations on your proposal. I think my situation definitely is a no more effort sort of thing. I know I have to talk to him now. I guess I'm just scared and nervous about the outcome. Commenter. My ex, who I did become engaged to, was like this. Just completely uninterested in me, unaffectionate and not plugged into what was happening in my life. Some men are like this, but not you, and that's fine. My current partner, it's like chalk and cheese. I got all the things I was told I was asking too much for before. We will snuggle and cuddle all night, hold hands while watching TV, cook together and chat and laugh and be silly. Yes. That's exactly my situation. But he wasn't like this before. He was sweet and affectionate and interested before. I don't know how I got to this point. Maybe it happened so gradually that I didn't notice until it was completely changed? I'm so happy you found an amazing partner like that. Update, 1 month later. I thought I'd provide an update. Thank you all for the advice, I appreciate it. So the day after I posted here, I talked to him. I told him that I feel a bit disconnected and I'd like it if he paid more attention to me and talked to me a little more. He just said, okay, but I could tell that he wasn't interested. The next day, there was no change and I was a bit annoyed, so I spoke to him again. I said that I'm starting to feel lonely in the relationship and I feel like he ignores me and isn't affectionate as he used to be before. But all he said was that he didn't want to talk about it. I said that it was important and that I might want to end things if we can't talk about this. Only then did he actually pay attention. He said that he ignores me because he's tired. I understand that work is tiring, but he practically ignores me all the time, and as far as the affection and attention, he said, I don't know. Things just change, you know? I explained that I understood all of that, but I needed more, that maybe it was unreasonable for me to want that and maybe the type of relationship I want doesn't exist, but I would not be happy in this relationship if things stayed this way. He then said he'd try more. That he'd hug me every morning before work, try to respond more when I spoke and give me a compliment now and then. I didn't like how it felt like a list of chores he had to do, but at least he was willing to try, so I agreed. I also asked if there was anything I could work on for him, but he said there was nothing he could think of. By the end of the first week he already seemed annoyed with the hugging. He'd let out a big sigh and it seemed like he was doing it begrudgingly. This felt awful for me, like I'm forcing this man to give me a crumb of affection. But at least he was doing it, I guessed. My breaking point happened last weekend when we were getting ready to go to a party. It was his friend's party and it was a fancy affair, so I had to get really dressed up. His niece and her BF were also going but came to our place because she needed help with her hair. She has gorgeous but length hair and wanted to curl it. As soon as her BF saw her after getting ready, he said, "Wow. You look so beautiful. You look like a mermaid," and hugged her. No prompting, no asking, he just did it. That's when my BF called me aside and said, "I guess I have to compliment you now, right?" That was it for me. I said that I was feeling sick and needed to go to the bathroom. We were all supposed to leave together, but I stalled for a few minutes and told them I was sorry and they should leave, and when I felt better, we'd meet them there. As soon as they left, I spoke to him. I said that I was sorry I wasted his time and I was so sorry that I didn't notice all of this sooner. I said that I appreciate his effort, and even though he was doing what I asked, it was not enough for me. I don't want to feel like a chore for someone. I understand that the honeymoon period / puppy love thing doesn't last forever, but I want someone to just like me, you know? To like me naturally and instinctively, as a person. After explaining that, I told him that I was sorry again and that I was ending things. He started freaking out and told me to think about it some more, but I was sure of my choice. He then said that he understands and he's sorry and asked if I would still go with him to the party as our last night out, and also because he was going to be embarrassed to go alone. I felt bad cause I didn't mean to do this on this day and I didn't want to leave him hanging, so I agreed. I really didn't want to, but I went and we managed to keep up appearances. Then in the middle of dinner, he proposed. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do and felt trapped. I didn't want to embarrass him or myself, so I said yes. Everybody was congratulating us and I was in hell. It all felt so awful and it was difficult to not start crying out of frustration. In addition to us technically being broken up, he knows I hate being the center of attention in public like that. When we got home, I asked how he could do such a thing. How could he put me in such a terrible position? He said, "I thought maybe proposing would change your mind." I said that it didn't and I just said yes because it would have been awkward if I hadn't. I gave him the ring back, packed some of my stuff and left. He was freaking out asking me what he was going to tell everyone, but I told him to say whatever he wants. That I changed my mind? I'm flaky? Whatever. I was emotionally exhausted and didn't care anymore. I feel awful and I wish I could have handled that whole situation better or smarter, but I panicked and now we're here. Everyone is probably going to think I'm a jerk, but I honestly didn't know what to do. Anyway, things are over now and I'm staying with my sister until I gather my bearings. He's been texting me, trying to convince me to reconsider. I honestly feel a little lost because he's the only BF I've ever had and he was such a big part of my life, but I know I made the right choice. TLDR, BF half-heartedly tried to change and it did not work. I broke up with him. He tried to salvage the relationship by proposing prematurely, but I still went through with the breakup. Final comments. Commenter. My jaw dropped and my hand clapped over my mouth when I read that he proposed. The fucking audacity. He did it to manipulate you. What am I going to tell them? Like, dude, you made this mess. Fuck around and find out. I'm so glad you didn't actually follow through with staying with him after saying yes. I'm so proud of you for leaving. I didn't want to say yes, but there were so many people there. It was a very big party in a fancy hall and everyone was looking at me expectantly. To be honest, I didn't even speak when he proposed. I froze for what seemed like ages, then eventually just nodded. Thank you. Commenter. Wow. Huge bullet dodged. I can't believe that he pulled that stunt. I initially thought that you would feign sickness and urge the other 3 to go without you. Oh well. If there are any people that matter to you within the friend group, tell them what happened. I for one think you did the right thing by moving out. Just bring someone with you when you get your things, quicker and safer. See if you can do it when you know that he won't be there. I initially wanted to tell the 3 of them to go without me, but he would have got mad at me and it would have been a fight, so I ended up doing this instead. I'm actually stalling getting my stuff. I'm dreading it. Commenter. Send someone else to get your stuff. Would your sister do it? Or at least accompany you? And shut down any and all conversation between the 2 of you? I was in a similar situation to you when I had a breakup, but I refused to be home when my BF picked up his stuff. And he took his time picking his things up, hoping to see me again. Eventually, I made a like and said pick it up by X date or it's trashed. My sister wanted to go the very next day and fetch my stuff. But it was a Sunday and I knew he'd be home the whole day, so I avoided it. My sister is the opposite of me, very confrontational you see, so I don't really want to go with her lol. She suggested that her husband accompany me this weekend, so I guess I'll do that. Moving on to our next story, and it says, my 26M girlfriend, 24F, has opened up to me extensively about the abuse she suffered. Her stories are starting to contradict each other and I'm starting to suspect something. I am currently in a 3-year relationship with a 24-year-old woman named Kathy. I'll spare you all the details about her personality, but I love her dearly. I fully intend to marry her when the time is right for both of us. On our first date, Kathy warned me that she had PTSD from past trauma. Some of the things that she has told me have been so devastating that they made me physically ill. As we talked and ate, she told me that she lost her virginity to her stepfather forcing himself on her when she was asleep. I, a grown-ass man, started crying in the middle of the restaurant. She assured me that she was in therapy and was working through her issues. As time has gone on, more and more details about her past have come up. I am incredibly happy that she is willing to share all of this with me because I want to support her, but there have been so many contradictions that I'm confused. I don't even know how to bring them up. Here are several of the ones that make the least sense. She told me that her biological father kicked her so hard when she was 7 that it broke her wrist in 2 places. Later, when we were taking a bike ride together, she said, I've never broken a bone and don't intend to now. She told me that her mother used to put a belt, a stick, and a wrench on the table and tell her to choose. She said she picked the wrench because, fuck her, that's why. This is a scene from Good Will Hunting, told almost ad verbatim. She has no marks or scars from this. She told me that after her stepfather abused her for several months, she lived for her grandparents for the rest of high school. Later she contradicted herself and said she was homeless and couch surfing for her last 2 years of high school. She told me that she dropped out of high school because she had to escape from a gang who was trying to make her work as a prostitute, but when I met her she was a student at a reputable university. She never went to community college. I don't think it's even possible to get into a school like that with nothing more than a GED. She told me that to cope with her past trauma, she did almost every drug and was barely sober for more than a week for 2 years. Later, when we smoked weed together, she got super high and said she had never tripped harder. I don't think someone who has done LSD and mushrooms would say that after smoking pot. It doesn't make sense. I feel like a monster for asking, was she even abused? I could understand 1 or 2 contradictions based on some inaccurate memories, but really? Why the movie scene monologue? Why does everything point to her having a privileged upbringing with the brand new Range Rover she bought as a freshman and fancy college degree with no debt? I don't know how to bring this up or how to make sense of any of this. I can't bring the issue up because if she was abused, it would crush her to be doubted. TLDR, my girlfriend has wild stories about her past abuse, but they're making less and less sense every time she talks about them. As much as I don't want to doubt her, they keep escalating and making less sense. Relevant comments. Commenter. Can you bring it up immediately when it happens? Her, I've never broken a bone. You, wasn't your wrist was broken when you were 7? At the time I raised an eyebrow, but I thought she was blocking out her abuse or something. I didn't want to bring up old bad memories. Commenter. Compulsive liar, by the sounds of it. Knew a few in college with the exact same kind of track record. The girl in the dorm room next to me only got caught when an RA called her mom to say the girl needed more support given the recent death of her uncle, and mom said never had an uncle. All of a sudden about 20 stories started to unravel. I have suspected that she is a compulsive liar, but aside from the outlandish and self-contradicting abuse stories, I can't find anything that she has ever lied to me about. Maybe she hides her other lies better. Would it make sense for a compulsive liar to only lie when it comes to one subject? Commenter. Aren't Range Rovers over $50K? And no debt from a fancy college? Sounds like she's lying through her teeth. Yeah, I looked up the price of her car when it was new. Well over $50K. Commenter. Sure sounds like she made it all up. Have you met her family? Op. At least one detail I'm fairly sure that's true is she hates her family. I've never met them. Update, less than a month later. Hi again everybody. A lot of people have expressed interest in an update to my situation, and since the situation is finally resolved, I figured I would take a minute to write out what happened. Admittedly, this actually ended last week, and, spoiler alert, I spent the following several days moving out. I haven't had a chance to update. A whole lot of thoughts on the matter have been stewing, so I'm afraid this is going to be long. For those of you who just want to know what happened and move on, she lied. We broke up. She tried to save our relationship by lying. I have ghosted her. For everyone else, my last post can be found here. A short synopsis of the situation is that my girlfriend spent the entirety of our relationship opening up to me about how she suffered horrific abuse from just about everyone in her personal life, yet her stories did not add up in the slightest. After reading through nearly every single response to my post, I came to two conclusions. 1. My girlfriend was lying about, at the very least, the extent of her abuse, and 2. She was only going to continue escalating these lies unless I put a stop to it. Many people told me both in comments and DMs that if I were to directly confront her about my suspicions, she would immediately gaslight me, or deflect by calling me a monster for not believing her. I agreed this was likely, and so I went the route of stalking her on social media. I'm not proud of it, but I spent well over 10 hours stalking her on Facebook. I hadn't logged into Facebook since early in our relationship, but she seemed to be using it fairly often. Through my search, I discovered two things that she couldn't possibly explain away. She has another Facebook she uses for close friends and family. The Facebook page she has me on is reserved for friends from online games, giveaways, and so on. This all came to light when I started messaging her Facebook friends. I sent them a copy/pasted message. Hey, I'm Clara's boyfriend. I know this is out of the blue, but would you mind if I asked you a question? I wanted to get her a gift and was hoping for a bit of advice. The majority of the people didn't respond. Fair enough. I assume many of the messages got automatically filtered. Of those who did respond, the vast majority didn't really know Clara, or only knew her online or didn't remember her at all. It was bizarre. Where were her college friends? Her not having high school friends would be right in line with what she told me before, but I know she has friends from college because she hangs out with them regularly, or at least she did until we went into lockdown. Eventually I figured it out. She had another Facebook. It was a total stroke of luck that led me to it. She happened to have one single friend who was on both of her Facebook pages, and when stalking her friend's friends, I found my girlfriend's second page. On her real Facebook page, everything she told me completely unraveled. Dozens of high school friends. Pictures from her high school days, ranging from class trips to dressing room pictures of her trying on new clothes to her sweet 16. Pictures with her parents with whom she seemed very happy to be having her picture taken. Pictures of her standing in front of a very large, very non-ghetto suburban house. Then I found the picture of her standing in front of her brand new Range Rover. At this point I had already decided our relationship was over. There's no explaining that. If she had mental illness so severe that she had deluded herself into believing everything she told me, she needed therapy, not a boyfriend. If all of those stories were just plain old lies, I wouldn't even know what to feel. Taking advice from the last post, I decided to ask about the Range Rover. I wanted to expose her and figured it was an innocent enough topic to bring up out of the blue. She was sitting on the couch reading a magazine, and so I walked up and asked her about her car. I said it was really nice, and if she had inherited some money or something to be able to afford it. She gave me a long theatrical inhale and exhale. She then asked me to promise not to be shocked, but it was Pandora's box. Knowing that she was about to feed me another helping of bullshit, I told her I wanted to hear it anyway. She covered up the Range Rover purchase by telling me that when she was homeless, she was forced into prostitution by an abusive pimp. She said that with the money she saved by overcharging clients and hiding tips from him, she was eventually able to afford the car. Then she asked if I still loved her despite her past. So that was the end of that. I called her a liar on the spot. Aside from everything else, what really ticked me off about this lie is street prostitutes don't make nearly enough money in tips to be able to buy an expensive car and pay for a college education. Then I told her that I saw her real Facebook. All of those pictures. For the first time in our relationship, she didn't have an explanation. I started my move out the next morning, the lease be damned, and finally was done with it in 3 days. She has frantically texted me saying she could explain and she was ready to tell me the truth. Yeah, the truth. I'm almost tempted to ask her for it just so I can experience another wild tale, maybe this time it being about her experience with witness protection on the run from the mafia or some other ludicrous story. Thanks again for all of the advice and help everyone. I feel like a total idiot for wasting 3 years of my life with her, but I have high hopes for my future. I'm going to take a break from dating for a while though. Right now I'm staying at a buddy's house who has been nothing short of amazing. She does not know where I am. TLDR, yes, she was lying. She had a second Facebook where she hid her real life. She wants to explain things to me, and I think I would rather get my teeth pulled out with a wrench. Relevant comments. Commenter. She sounds like a narcissist, to be honest. I know someone exactly like this. Also, you called her Kathy in your other post? OP, haha, I just screwed up and thought she was Clara before. It has been 2 weeks. Her real name looks nothing like either. Commenter. One thing I don't understand is you mentioned the Range Rover in your original post, but I don't see it referenced in any of your stories. It sounded in this post like seeing her with the Range Rover was a surprise, but it was just that she got it as a teenager? Also, have you contemplated messaging her parents? It's kind of surprising that somebody with all of those stories wouldn't have her Facebook locked down. I would almost post something and tag her. The whole thing is so weird and sick. I'm sorry that you experienced it. And, yes, if you've been on this ride for this long, I would be curious to know what the truth really is. The Range Rover thing was because despite her roller coaster teens, she somehow was able to afford it, brand new, from her first year of college. That made no sense to me. She never really went into detail about it, and I never asked until I decided to confront her about it. Moving on to our next story, and it says, I, 29M, broke my wife, 28F, S heart, how do I save my marriage? My wife and I have been married 4 years, and together for 6. I love her deeply, however recently I have developed an infatuation for a woman I work with. I did not cheat and have a strictly work relationship with her. I recognized my feelings as a mere crush but still felt guilty, and needed to talk about it. About 2 months ago I posted on a forum, not Reddit, about this woman and found sympathy. It helped me understand how crushes in a LTR work. A month ago, I came home to my wife having printed my post. She confronted me, and as I was taken by surprise, I didn't really know how to explain myself. I couldn't lie either, so I just apologized to her. She read me my post while crying. I cannot post it entirely here, but basically I said she was a breath of fresh air, the reason I'm happy to go to work. I wish I could hold her in my arm and know how she smells. I often dream of her, sometimes I lie down and imagine her in front of me. These were things I was thinking but couldn't say out loud. They were things that could have been written in a diary. They were private thoughts, and I never imagined my wife would read them. In the end, it is just a fantasy. Ever since that day, my wife has barely spoken to me. She refuses to discuss it and won't look at me in the eye the rare times she addresses me. She moved into our guest room. She told me she was getting ready to divorce and would file when she has enough money, and that I shouldn't hope that I am free to pursue that woman. I understand why she is hurt, but it is just an infatuation. It is not comparable to the love and history I have for her. How can I get it through her? She told me she never had feelings for another man and that I betrayed her. She won't stay married to a man who yearns for another woman. I told her I would change jobs, but she just said I'll still dream of her. She is completely closed off. What can I do? I apologize for errors. I am stressed and not a native English speaker. TLDR, my wife wants to divorce after reading a post about how I have an infatuation for another woman. I love her and don't want to divorce. Relevant comments. Commenter. So, have you gotten a new job yet? What have you done to show your wife that you're serious about your marriage and that she's the only who matters to you? She won't let me talk to her or touch her. Sometimes she will leave the room when I come in. She is like a wall. I tried buying her favorite flowers and wrote a card, but she didn't take them. I am invisible to her. I was looking for jobs when I informed her I would change jobs to avoid the woman, but she told me not to bother as she was leaving. In this economy, I cannot easily risk being unemployed, especially if I will end up divorced. Commenter. There's an innocent crush, and then there's wanting something to happen between the two of you. Your wife knows this, everybody knows this, and you should know this. You wanted to hold your coworker in your arms, etc., etc. It's not the fact that you have a crush on someone. It happens naturally and is human nature. It's the fact that you have a crush and wanted things to happen between you two, and that's what broke your wife's heart. Also, in the first place, if you wanted to keep your thoughts private, you shouldn't have posted it on the internet. Update, 5 months later. I had forgotten about this post and I am back to update, so maybe seeing my stupidity could prevent someone else from making the same mistakes. I cringe when I read today what I wrote months ago, and it seems ridiculous to me that I could have felt this way about another woman. I wrote that I would imagine my former coworker while lying in bed, but in the end, when my wife stopped acknowledging my existence, waking up without seeing her face was just absolute torture. I really took all I had for granted until I almost lost it. So I took some of the advices and decided to court my wife again the hardest I could. Of course, the first step was looking for another job, and it took me a month, but I managed to find a similar position in another enterprise. I did what was suggested of taking over every chore, and she stopped ignoring me but would simply stare at me with some kind of hostility and go on with her life. I tried flowers, but she would leave them to die. My wife's dominant love language is physical, but I wouldn't dare try touching her, so I went for telling her. I somehow realized it was really the content of what I wrote about the other woman, which obviously when you are deep in a crush is amplified, that really hurt her. I tried engaging her in conversation so we could talk about what was happening to us, but more importantly what I did to her, but she remained closed off. And so I started writing her letters and would leave them under her pillow. At first I apologized for everything, for writing the post, for not putting an end to the crush faster, for making her feel like another woman could hold a higher place of importance to me, and for not taking the initiative to change jobs earlier. For making her life hard by creating this situation which ended in her sleeping in the guest room of her own house, for making her cry and causing stress to her. Then I wrote her love letters telling her how much I loved her, how the crush couldn't compare to the deep love I have for her. I was chewed for saying I loved her because of our history in my last post, but I was misunderstood. I meant that the love I have for her has gotten stronger with time. 5 years ago I loved her, but wouldn't have given her one of my organs if she needed, for example, while now I would without hesitation. Our history is what caused the attachment to grow stronger, therefore no random crush could override that. I was odd in front of my crush and wrote sappy things about her, but in the end I do not know this woman on a personal level, while I have seen the worst of my wife and the love remains. I told her how beautiful she was and how impressed and proud I was with her development as a person since we have met, how grateful I was for her presence in my life and every single thing I was thankful for that she did and enhanced my life, how much I needed her and missed hearing her tell me how her day went, laugh at my bad jokes, and basically just missed hearing the sound of her voice. This is a small sample, but it must have taken a good 3 weeks of daily letters until she answered me back. She answered with a letter of her own telling me how much I have hurt her with my crush, how I made her feel invisible next to that woman, how I never told her such loving words, until the letters, how much she hated me but also how she loved me and missed me too. Her letter allowed me to feel her vulnerability. After reading it I cried and went to see her, we locked eyes, she cried and we held each other for a long time. She started talking to me again then and softened. Honestly, the possibility of the marriage ending just like that scared the both us. As of today we are, to my surprise, mostly back to normal, and actually I feel closer to her. We continue with the letters which have helped increasing our emotional intimacy. I make an effort to tell and show her my love. I am very grateful that she has given me a second chance, and even more so that she has decided to put the crush behind us. We had maybe 2 fights since, but she hasn't brought it up and doesn't punish me. It really wasn't the crush on itself but how I went about it and the lack of affection from my part in comparison. Maybe I am being optimistic here, but I truly think we are going to get through this. We will be going to couple counseling after our vacation just to make sure things are really settled between us. TLDR, I managed to get my wife back after working on the way I conveyed love to her, and we are doing alright. Final comments. Commenter. It's nice how hard you are trying. The thing you need to continue to work on is not stopping this once you have got her completely back. For me, I would never get over what you said. I would have filed for divorce immediately. I'm glad things are working out for you though. Thank you, I do not plan on stopping. I realize I wasn't putting enough work into my marriage before. Commenter. Yeah buddy. Save the letters, and when you have a fight, or you forget how much you love her, you break that shit out and remind yourself. Alright. What are your thoughts on this story? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales.